the line. I'm so happy this evening that a couple that we love and appreciate very much, Carol and Pete.
I'm very excited to have them here.
Yes, they are going to be joining us this evening, so I'd like you to welcome them to our show. Hi, guys.
Welcome, guys.
Hi.
How are you doing?
How are you?
We're good.
Good. Okay, can you hear us okay?
Yeah, I can hear you fine.
Okay, awesome.
Awesome.
All right.
So, I'd like to start off with a couple of questions. So how did you guys meet, and how did your relationship begin, and how long have you been married?
We met at work a long time ago. We've been married 27 years.
Oh,
Wow,
okay.
that's great.
But I was on second shift at this company, and then they gave me the ultimatum of going to first shift or getting laid off. So
Oh, no.
I went to. So I said, I went to first shift, obviously, and then that's when I met Carol.
Awesome.
And
In the break room, I think it was.
in the break room. But anyways, like I said, we've been married 27 years. We've been living together for 30 years.
Oh, wow.
Wow.
That is a long time.
Yeah, it is a long time.
That's
and,
great, though.
But that's how we met. I mean, I don't know, there was something I saw when I first saw her. It just, I don't know, attracted me to her. So
That's wonderful.
we
Okay.
That's
from
usually how
there.
it is when you see the right woman.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I was 19, so I don't know. Maybe I didn't know what I was doing, or thought I didn't know what I was doing. But
Well,
I
would
mean,
say
know
I would
know-
say
I know
30
I-
years means something.
Yeah, I know. Now I know. For sure.
Exactly. Okay, Carol, so I have a couple questions for you, Carol.
Okay.
Now, in the few months, or even like maybe up a year or so before your discovery of Pete's addiction, did you notice anything different or strange going on that maybe you didn't notice, but looking back on it, maybe was present then?
When we first met,
Or just before the discovery of
general?
Pete's addiction, yeah.
well, we had been going through a rough patch.
Okay.
With our youngest child. He's also a drug addict, and so we were also going through that. And prior to that, I would say we had become distant.
Okay.
And then as things progressed, and I did kind of tend to notice that, he always was looking at his cell phone.
Okay.
I did notice that, at odd times he would be on the computer because he never had any really interest in it except to, for either his work or, just to look up something or anything like that.
Sure.
But it would be like real early in the morning or late at night when I was asleep. And then
okay.
I would find him in the office, he's like, oh, I can't sleep. I'm just, reading the sports page. That was the thing.
Sure.
I'm reading sports. Oh, okay. So,
And you're
then
not really thinking, yeah.
Right. I mean, I just wasn't really thinking about that. But he just did become. He was just distant, and I knew there was something, but I really wasn't quite sure what it was.
Couldn't put your finger on it, so to speak, but you had the feeling.
Right.
You know how you
There
know,
was
you know. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. There was just something not right. And obviously we weren't being intimate, but, I just figured, well, we're not really that, I don't know, it just seemed like there was just something between us.
You seem like, things were kind of, you were having a rough patch, but you could almost sense there was like something in between you two. I understand what you mean by that. I understand that, yeah. Okay.
And Pete, okay, in the, few years or months prior to the discovery of what was going on with you, was there some sort of loss in career, home, money, or anything that you can recall that may have caused to the stressful buildup of this?
Yeah, definitely.
Okay.
I think one of the main things was my dad passed away.
Ooh.
And
I'm sorry.
Sorry to hear that.
Yeah, this was a few years back. It's been quite a while now. But right after that, I had a fallout with my mom, and then she sent me a letter telling me that she never wanted to see me
Oh, wow.
or my family ever again.
That's a pretty tough thing to deal with.
Yeah, it made me feel really really bad, obviously, and I, felt a little like unworthy or like kind of worthless.
Kind of
like,
spirals
if
you
your
down.
Mom doesn't want to see you, then what the hell is wrong with me?
Sure.
So I and then at that time, me and, like Carol mentioned before, we were kind of growing apart and not really being intimate or talking intimately. And then she mentioned our youngest son having his addiction, and that really he tried to drive a wedge between us big time.
Sure.
And,
Right.
Sure, as addicts can.
Exactly, and that added to that, and we were always, monetarily okay, but we were never like, had an excess of money, so
Sure.
we'd be paycheck to paycheck, and that had something to do with it too. I think there was just a lot of different things,
Sure.
that made me feel, just unworthy.
Absolutely.
Or inadequate. That would probably be a better word.
Inadequate.
So it sounds like a lot of things actually built up for that to happen.
And over a long period of time.
Yeah, it took a
Right.
few years. But definitely.
Okay, thank you. So
Sure.
Carol, would you share with us? Would you mind sharing with us how you discovered Pete's addiction and what you were going through emotionally during those times? How did you feel? What were you thinking? Anything that you care to share about that, if you're comfortable?
Yeah, I want to say I was by myself. Pete was out with one of our children. And I just got into this, I don't know, that I knew there was something going on. And he had brought in his notebook from work.
Okay.
And I just thought, well, for something, I don't know, there was just inner knowing that just said, look there. And I found he had a list of, email and websites, and I was like, oh my God,
Yeah.
And I found them all, and I logged in, and I looked, and I was just like, wow, really? It just, I was just in shock. It was like my heart stopped. I mean, it just really stopped, and to look at the pictures on that website I was just like, who are you? Because the look in his eyes were not, it was just odd. It was just not him.
It's like it wasn't him.
Right.
Yeah, it was like I could see it, but there was just something in his eyes that was not, I don't know, it was just sad.
It wasn't the man that you married. It wasn't
No,
the person.
It wasn't. Right.
I can understand that. I can understand that. That's incredible. Thank you for sharing that. And it is difficult when we find out that people that we care about, have gotten into an addiction. It doesn't matter. I mean, it does matter what it is, but it's shocking to begin with, and then to find out, what it is like, oh my,
Yeah.
So thank you,
Pete. When Carol found out. If you can answer, how long had the addiction been going on for, and what was your reaction?
I would say roughly about a year.
Okay.
I was online, various websites like you mentioned, just looking for anonymous, hookups, really.
Okay.
I didn't want a relationship, it was just an act,
Sure.
And that part of it was kind of the thrill was, like the thrill of the chase. I guess you call it, that kind of thing. But when I found out she knew, it was I felt very, very shameful.
Right.
A lot of shame. I could see the hurt in her eyes, and I could hear it in her voice, and it wasn't very pleasant. I tell you that it was a very bad feeling. Like I said, a lot of shame and humiliation, and the hurt I caused just made me feel horrible.
I can understand that. I've felt that feeling. When people find out about you, and it's like the disappointment that they feel. All these things just come crashing down, and it's like, oh my gosh, I can't do it. It almost makes you want to run, but at the same time, you don't know what to do. Would you mind? Yeah. Could you share with us, like, how common are these places, where you find, partners and things? Is it, like, readily available? Are they easy to find for people? Would you mind talking about that a little bit for our listeners?
Oh, yeah, it's very easy. If you know what you want. I mean, it's just like looking up something to buy online.
Really?
It's way too easy, let's put it that way.
Really?
And you don't need any money, really, to... because I wasn't going to use, an ATM card or anything.
Sure.
I would obviously show up, but a lot of them you just join, and hopefully you just think, well, they'll contact me, and that's what happened, really. So we're readily too readily available. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, it's too easy. That's what we're talking a lot about. The internet just makes everything so easy.
Yeah, but when you're doing it, it feels great.
Right.
Sure.
You feel
right.
like, I'm getting away with this, and in the end you don't, and you just everything crashes around you. So.
Exactly. And I was talking on my last show. I've had instances of infidelity, and both of which is a different case than this, and being caught with that, and you're thinking, I was thinking, I deserve to do this, or I'm not getting the attention of my ex-husband's this and that, and in the end, I really was hurting myself. It was me, and I did feel terrible, about the actions that I was taking, and it's just,
Yeah,
and
you're right when you mentioned that you think you deserve it, because I thought I did too. I've been working a lot and just giving my all to my family, to my job, and it just seemed like nothing ever came of it. So I figured, well, this is something I deserve.
Right.
And,
Right.
And then you end up just hurting really the one that really loves you the most in your life, and that's just.
Isn't that how it always goes, though?
Yeah, right.
It doesn't matter.
But it just, just to see the pain and know how much, if you're feeling this bad, how bad are they, is she feeling? So it's just horrible.
I've experienced that myself, where you've had to look into someone's eyes, and you can feel it. It's the worst place I've ever been, and never want to be there again, type thing. But yeah,
exactly.
So, Carol, how, if you don't mind, how did you go about accepting all of this, and how challenging was this for it to go through? Tell us a little bit about, how you, before we get into the treatment phase here, how did you become accepting of this? Or learn to deal with, I guess, is a better thing to say.
Well, the first time, it was like, you're so naive because you don't realize that this is the beginning of an addiction.
Okay.
It was, we grew apart. Do you want to stay together? Do you want to work this through? And so we had ended up going to a marriage counselor.
Okay.
And we were very fortunate to find a very good therapist. And, we were in marriage counseling, and we decided, well, okay, we had been together, all this time, and, he was I never had any reason to suspect that he would, cheat on me or anything. And I was just disappointed that, if he wanted out, then why didn't he just tell me instead of doing it this way?
Yes.
So, we had went into marriage counseling, and we were learning, how in couples counseling, it's the whys and going back on where we felt that we had that disconnect.
Yes.
And then we just, learned the tools that we needed to go forward, and and then everything was going along good.
Mm-hmm. And
then it happened again.
Okay, so you had relapse.
Yes, we had relapses, and when it was about a year later in the relapse, and once again, it's always the email. So I found it on the email, and at that time, I kind of realized there's definitely something more to this than just infidelity.
Just infidelity.
And so we were still going to marriage counseling at this
Oh,
whole
okay.